Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you're navigating your way through the B1 level of English, while today is a massive milestone for you, we're diving right into Module 07, Mastering the English Passive Voice. Honestly, this is the exact moment where you stop relying on those basic, everyday sentences and really start sounding like a true professional. I am super thrilled to guide you through this, so let's just jump right in.
Okay, let's quickly map out our path for the session. First, news from Bratislava. Then, active versus passive. Third, the passive formula. Fourth, our error clinic. And finally, number 5, an exercise to transform the headlines.
All right, Section 1, News from Bratislava. Let's get some real-world context here. Because to truly understand this grammar point, we can't just stare at textbook sentences all day. We need to see how it operates out in the wild. Specifically, we're going to look at Central European corporate presentations focusing on urban development and business ops in Bratislava. Consider this number, 24,500. That actually represents the square meters of first-class Category A office space built during Phase 1 of the Eurovea development in Bratislava's modern urban quarter. Now, when real estate developers or financial analysts report on massive projects like this, they don't usually focus on the construction workers who poured the concrete, right? They focus on the building itself. They'll say things like, "It was built," or "The space is situated by the river." And boom, that is the passive voice in action.
Here's another real-world example for you. This is an actual quote from a corporate review by Henkel, talking about the MHC Business Language Training Center in Bratislava. Just notice the phrasing here. Classes are organized. You see, formal business reports, journalistic articles, and even your daily corporate emails rely heavily on this specific sentence structure to sound, objective and professional. The focus here is entirely on the classes, not on the specific administrator who's actually organizing them behind the scenes.
Moving right into Section 2, Active versus Passive. Let's do a mechanical breakdown of how this works. First off, let's define what we're actually talking about here. If you look at academic linguistic journals, voice is simply defined as a grammatical category that defines the relationship between a verb and its subject. Essentially, it just tells us whether the subject of our sentence is the one acting or the one being acted upon.
In this simple example brilliantly illustrates that flip. Look at the active voice. She ate the cake. The subject, she, is performing the action, right? But now look at the passive voice. The cake was eaten. The whole focus completely shifts. The subject is now the cake, and it's on the receiving end of the action. The person who actually did the eating, well, they're either unknown, totally irrelevant, or intentionally left out.
So how do we build this? Section 3, the passive formula. Let's look at the structural equation.
Now, for you adult learners at the B1 level, I really want to reassure you about something. This isn't magic. It's literally just a simple structural equation. There are 3 systematic steps to build a passive sentence. Step 1, identify the recipient object, the thing receiving the action, and make it your brand new subject. Step 2, add the auxiliary verb to be, conjugated for the correct time and number. So is, are, was, or were. And step 3, just add the past participle of your main verb. That is literally it. Object, to be, past participle.
Let's actually contrast the present and past formulas side by side using those Bratislava real estate examples we looked at earlier. So for a present fact, like the Eurovea development, we use the present passive. It is situated by the river. See how we use the present auxiliary is? But for a completed historical event, we use the past passive. It was built near the historical center. We just shift that auxiliary verb to the past tense, was. Notice that the past participle remains exactly the same. It's a real game changer once you see the pattern.
Now you might be wondering, what if you really absolutely need to mention who did the action? We call this an agentive phrase, and to do this, we use the word by. But here's the catch. You only use by when the agent's identity is highly significant or intentionally highlighted. For example, if a world-famous developer built the tower, you'd want to say it was developed by H.B. Revis. If the agent isn't important, just drop it. Leave it out entirely. All right, on to Section 4, our error clinic. Time to troubleshoot some common translation traps. Now, what's really interesting about the data we're looking at now is how tricky this can be. This chart comes from a university study analyzing student interpreters who were working under serious pressure. Look at these numbers. A whopping 33% of errors were total misinterpretations of the passive voice, and in 28% of cases, the students just deleted the passive voice entirely and reverted back to active.
This basically proves that even highly advanced translation students struggle to process the structure in real time. It definitely requires deliberate practice to master.
And for our Spanish-speaking learners out there, here is the absolute biggest trap, the literal translation of the pasiva refleja. In Spanish, you might say, se construyó el edificio, but if your brain translates that literally into English, you might accidentally blurt out, the building built itself. And well, last time I checked, buildings don't build themselves. You absolutely must switch to the English passive structure and say, the building was built.
So the most crucial point here is to always ask yourself this simple mental check. Who is doing the action? If the subject of your sentence isn't actually physically capable of performing the verb, like say a building doing the building or a cake doing the eating, then you know for sure you need the passive voice. Don't confuse the agent with the receiving object.
Okay, let's put this into practice with Section 5, Transform the Headlines, a quick interactive exercise.
I'm going to show you 3 active corporate and journalistic headlines, and I want you to mentally transform them into the passive voice right now. Here's active headline 1, straight from our Bratislava architectural sources. H.B. Ravis developed the Twin City Tower. Notice it's in the past tense, and we have a very specific, highly significant agent. So how would you flip this to focus on the tower?
Did you get it? It should be, the Twin City Tower was developed by H.B. Ravis. We moved the tower right to the front. We used the past tense was, added the past participle developed, and because the developer is an important named entity, we kept them at the very end using by.
All right, let's try active headline 2, which is based on our language training source from earlier. The company organizes target group specific classes. Now, this one is in the present tense. Think back to your formula. What exactly is receiving the action here? And here's the flip. Target group specific classes are organized by the company. Because classes is a plural subject, our present tense auxiliary verb has to be are. Excellent job if you got that one. Okay, here is our final, slightly more complex headline regarding those well-certified office spaces in Bratislava. Hundreds of sensors monitor the smart office environment. Take a second and flip it to focus entirely on the office environment. The smart office environment is monitored by hundreds of sensors. Brilliant. Do you see how beautifully the focus shifts to the smart office itself? It just makes the whole sentence sound so much more analytical and professional. Before we wrap this all up, I want to remind you of what the Common European Framework of Reference actually says about your current learning level. It says, grammatically, B1 means starting to use passive voice. By mastering the structures we covered today, you are literally proving that you are exactly where you need to be in your professional language journey. You're no longer just a beginner. You are officially an independent communicator. And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. Your action item for today is simple. Take this into the real world. What corporate process, project update, or historical fact will you describe using the passive voice today in your own workplace or your studies? Seriously, try writing an email using it right now. Thank you so much for focusing in with me today, and I will catch you in the next explainer.